Yo, what's up? I'm QuHarrison, and today I am here with the deepfake detective, Mr. Cowdrey himself. And we got some examples of deepfakes that we want to just get into and break down and talk about how deepfakes are going to just show up in our everyday lives and we don't really even know. So, Mr. Detective, what's up?
ESPN and State Farm, they got in the deepfake game. Roll the clip.
Roll the clip. All right. Are you not even going to let people know? Like, you're just going to
just roll the clip. We'll talk about it after.
All right. I got you.
Let's get right to it. The Chicago Bulls have won their second three-peat. This is the kind of stuff that ESPN will eventually make a documentary about. They'll call it something like The Last Dance and make it a 10-part series and release it in the year 2020. It's going to be lit. You don't even know what that means yet. While I'm making predictions, jeans will get extra tight. There'll be a thing called a butt fumble. And this clip will be used to promote the documentary in a State Farm commercial. It's just a hunch.
All right. So obviously a little bit of parody, a little bit of historical context, bringing it all in. I mean, it's just a funny kind of play on deepfakes in general. Basically, this is an old... so Kenny Mayne used to be, I don't know if he still is, but he used to be a pretty big kind of sportscaster on ESPN. And this is just an old clip from him, doing, a clip back in the day, right? On ESPN. And they took this and turned it into, basically they took this clip and they rewrote it in a sense. They rewrote it 22 years in the future. With The Last Dance. It's basically a promotion for this new docu-series that just came out about Michael Jordan. Right. And they basically took this old clip, deepfaked it, turned it into a new advertisement, like with some funny irony, parody, all that kind of stuff into it.
Yeah, no, and I thought that it was really interesting. I saw that the New York Times, I didn't actually watch it. You saw it live on ESPN. I saw it on, a New York Times article about deepfakes, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Yeah. And when you think about the future of deepfakes showing up in ads, me and you, we've previously discussed it in entertainment, but not so much from this advertising angle. I'm curious what questions you kind of have. Like, do you think that COVID accelerated the deepfake advertising paradigm?
I'm not entirely sure. I think it's possible because if you think about it, it's probably harder to get into a studio right now to produce something 100%. Like this. And so they're like, hey, what's the old assets that we can just, kind of play with, and some programmer in, Dubuque, Iowa can build this out. I'm sure that's a part of it, but deepfakes and advertisement, I mean, I was sitting on the couch right over there watching this TV that's right behind me, and I mean, I was completely taken by surprise. It was like, first of all, I'm watching ESPN, and you get to flash back to this old ESPN that I kind of remember from being a child. And then all of a sudden, like, he starts saying some things that look like they should be from the future, but they're really from the past. And like, it totally played with my mind. I mean, I knew what a deepfake was, so I'm kind of watching it like, wow, that's kind of interesting. Like, they're editing this old clip to make it feel current. And it's just like this total kind of mind screwing it with it and stuff, Yeah,
I mean, it definitely gets at you, right? Like, I'm watching it without the sound, right? And I'm looking at it because this is literally my first time seeing it, so this is my initial reaction. And like, it is mind-boggling. Like, I just like, your mind is blown a little bit because you're like, dang, this looks legit. Like, this has the tape delay. It's got the grain. Yep. It's got the new old school broadcast newscaster feel. And like, you're just like, whoa, like, this is a deep fake. This was created in 2020 and we can go back. Like, I think that there's two ways I look at it. I get super excited. The inner marketer in me loves this. I think you look at this technology, and I think the limitations of COVID actually enhanced this technology greatly, mainly because if I'm setting up a marketing campaign, I just told a team of creatives this morning, you're in the house. Your creativity, the moment for it to excel and to manifest is right now. Like, all the limitations, everybody's playing with the same deck of cards, and it's a limited deck of cards. But if you're a creative cat, guess what? You're going to get out there and you're going to make some magic happen. This is a great example of that, right? I look at the New York Times article. I recommend a lot of people go check this out. It gives a great breakdown onto how how companies are forced to think about it from the executive perspective. So if you're an ad agency or you're an executive at ESPN and you're like, deepfakes, isn't that something that we don't want our brand associated with? And they talk about how that stigma was kind of navigated and how this could be potentially one of the use cases for creating content when you're in a shutdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
The next segment is I was doing some more research, ran into, a wormhole known as the Roganverse. You familiar with this, Ryan?
I'm familiar with the Roganverse, and it's a deep, dark hole,
Can I press the play button?
Go for it.
All right. So this is by Futuring Machine. Check this out. I'm not going to play
Last time on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
What happened?
The barriers between quantum realities are breaking down.
And now, the conclusion.
Captain, all systems are back under helm control.
I'm not going to play the whole thing, but that looks like Star Trek, doesn't it?
Yep.
It looks pretty good too. Like it's not a bad recreation.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I swapped out Star Trek and showed it to one of our little homies for the first time, they would think that this is the real deal.
Mm-hmm. And be like, dang, when did Joe Rogan get a new TV show? I didn't know he was on. He got a new promotion.
Straight up, right? Like they'll be like, oh, Rogan's been a guy for a long time. It's kind of like if you took Chuck Norris and put him on place of Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting for like remarketing purposes. Like, what if a TV show pilot fails, but you don't want to go back and reshoot it? You're like, well, shoot, let's just see if it works with this other guy,
So this was the second example that, I stumbled upon, and you brought your example. This is my example. I like where you're going, where you're saying, okay, how do we take some of these things that were once considered a failure or once considered great, but might not have the shine or polish of modern society to really get that shot or chance that they deserve? Star Trek's one of those contemporary classics, right? Where I sent you like a few years ago. I was like, yo, Ryan, you got to just go watch the first season of Star Trek. And you were looking at me like, bro, you're tweaking. And I think you did it on the first or second attempt? Or was it more than that?
I watched it. It wasn't bad.
Okay.
It's definitely it's hard to adjust to, the $1 million budgets that we see now. $1 million budget back then. This was $1 million budget, but our $1 million budgets now include insane stunts and crazy costumes and stuff.
Well, you get Avengers, right? Like it's like, would you rather, if you're on Netflix or Hulu or whatever your streaming service is, and you see Avengers or you see an old TV show that came out in the 60s, you're probably going to watch Avengers, right? If you're from, today's generation, right? If you're older, this is going to be more appealing to you, and you're probably going to be like, I don't really like the Avengers. Why they keep making the same movie over and over again? And that's just perspectives. Deep fakes for entertainment purposes, I think, create this interesting blend where you can serve people what they like and not change the source material.
Mm-hmm.
You can change the likeness in this, not when I say change the source material, it's like shoot it once, serve it as an unlimited amount of variations, whatever gets the job sold.
Yep. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like giving you 31 different flavors at Baskin Robbins. It's like you get to choose, you get to kind of see which one you like, which one you don't.
Now there's something that I wanted to bring up, and then I think we'll just go to the comments because it's a live stream, so I'm sure people have got a lot of takes and prescient takes. But how deepfakes will be used for entertainment, I want to go a little bit further. Both of these deepfakes were really good. You didn't notice it. The Kenny Mayne one was really mind-boggling. This Joe Rogan, I had to do a couple second takes. I watched all the way to part 2, and I was like, man, I'm in the Roganverse.
Mm-hmm.
My question to you is, let's say it's 2030. Let's say deepfakes are a normal part of our daily lives in society. What does deepfake detection look like? Because humans probably aren't going to be the variable at which we can discern a deepfake. Because if I'm looking at this picture right now, I can't tell the difference, man. That's Captain Picard.
Yeah, I think Picard. You probably got to look at cinema. So I remember, I think it was 2012, the movie Avatar came out, right?
Yeah.
And the big storylines behind that were this was the first massively CGI induced movie, $2 billion budget. like this was the peak of what we could do with CGI and all these different things. And that in and of itself carried its own storyline, right? It was like, not only did I want to go see this Avatar movie, but I wanted to go see what $2 billion worth of this new technology was. That's where we're at right now with deepfakes. Is like, you can go and create an ESPN commercial with a deepfake, and you shock the person that's sitting on the couch watching it, and you spark their intuition. But then it's like, also this dude who doesn't even care about sports, named QuHarrison, reads it in the New York Times. So it gets an extra play of shine by like circling another sphere of people who are interested in technology, So it's like, we're kind of in that stage right now where deepfakes in and of itself bring this extra air of like, interest with it. I think 10 years from now, CG, in the same way that CGI is just common in movies now, we don't care if somebody says we spent $1 billion on CGI. It's like it's expected. I think deepfakes will be in that same realm where it's like it's kind of expected in certain things. It's expected to maybe swap faces on somebody or yada yada yada. So I think the detection of that, I think we're going to be. It's more going to be on the back end and not like brought into the front of the world where it's like, oh, this was a deep fake. It's like there's going to be so many deep fakes around us that any detection of it is just going to be behind the scenes, and it's just never going to make it to the light of day.
Right. I think that to build off of that, I think, when you have deep fakes for entertainment, maybe it won't be such a big deal if like it's a deep fake or not, because it's kind of like a meme. Like, you don't really care if a meme is verifiable or not. If it's purely just like an education thing, right? Like, I mean, not education thing, an entertainment thing, right? But when you start to get out of entertainment, you start to look at education. You start to look at just everyday workforce and like your workplace environment, like people saying like, okay, I got to get stuff done. The social engineering that's possible for deepfakes poses like a very big problem, right? Imagine if I called someone and you just changed my face and sent that video to someone else and said like, hey, this person said I could do what I did. Like yesterday, we talked about the Elon Musk Zoom bomb, right? That wasn't Elon Musk, but it looked like him, right? There's going to be a lot of people that won't know. They'll just be easily fooled. Like I think about my mom. If she saw a video and it looked like me, and even if the voice was a little off, it looked like me, she's going to trust that asset. I think the way we get content is going to change. I think that there's a lot of APIs that are created. We'll talk about that in another video. We'll talk about some of the tools that people are using to detect deepfakes today. But I think if you fast forward 10, 15 years, it's going to be natively integrated into the hardware and software that we use. So it's kind of like, I'm trying to think of something that's like, it's like, like an MP4 codec, right? Like to play a video, there's a commonly agreed upon standard, whether it be MP3, that's how you do for audio, MP4.mov for, movies and stuff. And the device manufacturers agree to these standards, and then you can coherently share video data or audio data across all these platforms. There probably will be some type of newly enhanced standard that looks at the intrinsic properties of what's being shown, and it will give you a likelihood of this being good content or, this being potentially artificially created or generated content. It's kind of like when we were in class. Let's go back like 10 years. Remember when turnitin.com became a thing? That like, what's the turnitin.com version of deepfake detection? That just works passively in the background.
Yeah, I'm sure like to what you said, there's probably got to be some sort of standard where an original is always stamped with a certain thing that says this is an original. And then once something's modified, it's put to this, even if it's modified with Photoshop, it's put to this, extra little layer that says this was modified. And then you kind of have to, discern it from there. But we'll probably, if deepfakes really do take off, like we're saying, the need for just original media is going to be, much greater, right? We're probably going to put a premium on us saying, this was an original. I didn't even touch this up with Photoshop. I didn't even touch this up with, an editing software at all, in the same way that Instagram had the whole, like, makeup free, or what was it called?
Or no filter.
No filter. Yeah. Like the same way that hashtag no filter got some shine. Like what's that 10x version of that where it's like, this is all OG media. This is all original. I didn't do anything to this, you know?
For sure. Well, with that being said, I think we're at time. We got to get back to our daily lives, but it was a pleasure having you on. Thanks for bringing your deepfake example. We'll continue this tomorrow, and we'll catch everybody else in the future.
All righty.